This is a video looking at the typical codes and conventions of documentaries. Firstly, we are going to look at interviews in documentaries. This is an interview from a documentary I watched, where we can see how the interviewee is on 1/3 of the screen, employing the rule of thirds, which is the typical conventions of documentaries, where the subject is situated on 1/3 of the screen as it is seen as the most interesting point for the viewer to look at. Another important aspect of interviews within documentaries is the background. We can see how this particular documentary has been set in a barbershop, which is relevant to the documentary and is an element of mise-en-scène where the background resembles the themes within the documentary. This is another image from a different documentary. We can see how that this interview is slightly different, where in the last interview a mid-shot was used for the interview, whereas in this documentary they have chosen to use a close-up, showing how a range of different camera shots can be used within documentaries. However, we can also see how the lines on this picture resemble the rule of thirds that has also been employed in this documentary, showing how that the rule of thirds interview is used across all documentaries. Another important aspect of this interview is the background, where it is a real setting, which is different to the previous one where we've seen it in a barbershop, showing how that different backgrounds can also be used within interviews. This is the third example of an interview, where this is an interview took from a Simpsons documentary. We can see how graphics have been used on the bottom left hand corner of Matt Groening's name, but we can also see how the background again is once more important, where the Simpsons characters are portrayed using a green screen, which is done through editing. Another important aspect of documentaries is archive footage. We can see how this is from a documentary called Being Paul Gascoigne that I watched. This is an example of archive footage because it was not shot particularly for the documentary and has been added in. This was used for a cutaway where the voice of Paul Gascoigne was telling a story and is cut away to the relevant setting. That is also an example of B-roll footage within a documentary. This is also from the same documentary, but it's also archive footage. However, it's different to the last one where it isn't in a video and it's rather a still image of a newspaper, showing how many different varieties of archive footage can be used within documentaries. This screenshot is also from the same documentary, but this shows a different convention of documentaries, as it is an establishing shot that has been used to show the setting for the documentary and is an important aspect of most documentaries. Title screens are also an important convention of documentaries. This is from a documentary called Gas Hole. We can see how the graphics are enlarged with the name of the documentary, and also we have a relevant image in the background of a gas pump. This is another example of a title screen within the documentary. This is from one called Up in the Air, and we can see how the clouds also resemble the title and keeps it relevant as it is an important convention.